Guys, that's enough. Stop it. I was shouting while watching millionaire friends fighting over me. I tried to separate them, but of course nothing came of it. It all started with an ordinary skirmish, and then it turned into a real fight. As soon as they calmed down, their bodyguards immediately approached and began to fight each other. While the guys were coming to their senses, one of the bodyguards suddenly pulled out a pistol and pointed it at the other, but the latter managed to react and knocked out the first one with a stun gun. "Damn, how dare you knock out my bodyguard?" One of the millionaires snarled fiercely at the other. "Keep your mouth shut." Chuck, the other millionaire, explained that he was actually defending me. They clenched their fists and moved closer to each other, preparing to fight again. But I stepped in between them and stretched my arms out to the sides. Colin and Chuck quickly regained their composure. I didn't need their attention, so one of them hugged me and asked if I was okay, and the other took a bottle of cold water from his backpack for me. Colin and Chuck followed me out of the schoolyard after I shoved them both away and tried to explain something. Then I caught the bus, knowing that they would not follow me because they disdain using it. At home, I was gripped by panic. Their fight for me went beyond reason. At first, they were literally showering me with expensive gifts. Then they were writing love letters. And now they're fighting out of shame for them. I just wanted to break my forehead with my palm because I didn't understand how friends become enemies. My name is Catherine, and this is my story of two former best friends who were millionaires fighting for my attention for several weeks. Now I'm getting tired of it because neither Colin nor Chuck are my favorites. It all began when I was sent to a new school. My former school burned down, and I was able to quickly demonstrate myself when, in a chemistry lesson, I nearly set fire to the classroom, owing to incorrect chemical proportions. Many people joked that I was the one who had set fire to the last school. These jokes had no effect on me, and all I did was chuckle in return, after which everyone began to converse with me. The truth is, with my charm and beauty, I have an incredible ability to win people over. This is apparently how I won the hearts of these two attractive gentlemen. Yes, these are Chuck and Colin, the most popular and rich boys in the entire school, if not the entire city. They treated me to sweet things in the canteen and expressed their interest in me, and after classes, they stopped next to me in a limousine and invited me for a ride. I didn't refuse because I've never rode in a limousine before. As a result, we drank delicious cocktails in the salon, listened to music, and then I leaned out through the roof and began to scream with joy. When I got home and logged into my Instagram account, I saw a bunch of messages from Chuck and Colin. I thought they just wanted to be friends with me, not yet realizing that they had already started to fight for me. This was why I actively responded to both of them, sending funny memes and videos. And there began the mess. A few days later, Chuck met me outside the classroom with a huge bouquet of flowers. Then Colin came up to me and also held a bouquet in his hand. It was, however, not from flowers, but rather my favorite sweets. The guys exchanged angry looks, and I didn't know what to say. After all the classes were completed, I witnessed Chuck and his Jeep smash into Colin's sports car, completely ruining it. Colin was enraged and rushed over to the Jeep, running the key down the car's body. Other males gathered around and began to watch the two rich guys showdown with bated breath. I didn't realize what was going on until they both contacted me in the evening. Colin and Chuck both informed me that they liked me and they wanted to date me. For some reason, I hung up since I didn't know what to say, as I didn't like any of them, and I informed them about that in the morning. The guys just smiled and even answered me the same way, saying that I would change my mind. I didn't want them to bother me at all, and what's more, compete with each other. However, they had a different opinion and showed themselves in all their glory. One morning, I saw a brand new Mercedes near my house with a note attached to it. It was a gift from Colin, who wanted a beautiful girl to have a beautiful car. I immediately called him and said that I did not need his gift. At school, another surprise awaited me, but this time it was from Chuck. Money and jewels showered down on me as soon as I walked into the classroom. Then Chuck approached me and claimed that he would go to any length for me. Colin was enraged and instantly fought with Chuck, and they began to call one another names and even shove each other, but the class teacher separated them. I tried to persuade them that there was no need to fight for me because I didn't want to date either of them, but they were uninterested. Then I tried to destroy both of their hearts at the same time by shamelessly flirting with our classmate. I wish I hadn't done this. Chuck's bodyguard intimidated that guy while Colin ordered a trash truck that knocked over the stinky leftovers on his car. After that incident, that classmate was immediately transferred to another school, while the rich guys tried in vain to get my attention. Then I decided to just ignore them. Perhaps this way they would understand that they, along with their expensive gifts, were not interesting to me. However, they managed to evoke vivid emotions in me. For example, Chuck was standing on the edge of the school roof and attaching my photo, which was 3 stories high, while I begged him to get it down. And Colin painted the walls of the school with declarations of love for me. I yelled at both of them and said that they were stupid. I couldn't stand dealing with them any longer. I couldn't understand why they were so obsessed with me that they had gone insane. We didn't know each other at all. We hadn't spoken in a long time until that fateful chemistry class. Where did this craze originate? It seemed as though I had been marked as a millionaire's target. The wealthy individuals appeared to have realized that they would not be able to achieve their goals in this manner. As a result, they decided to take action through my parents. My father came home from work one day in a high mood and informed me that he had been promoted. My mother and I were both surprised because she was promoted on the same day as my father. And then I discovered that my mother worked for a company owned by Chuck's family, while my father worked for a company owned by Colin's family. At that moment, I freaked out and asked my parents to transfer me to another school, as I was bothered by the current one. When I recounted the scenario to my parents, they simply chuckled and told me that I should be pleasant because such wonderful and, more importantly, high-status men loved me. Happy? They irritate me to no end. Chuck and Colin continued to pamper me in every way imaginable over the next few days, seeking attention via various means and removing any individuals who looked at me in an unfavorable light. As a result, 2 of the guys were transferred to another school, and the third, along with his family, departed the city. And there was a quarrel with which I began my evening's narrative. The idea that they could injure themselves was stuck in my head. I understood that this could not continue anymore, and that I apparently would have to choose between them. Maybe then they would calm down. The next day, Chuck drove a luxurious limo right to my house to pick me up. While across the street, Colin was waiting for me in a Lamborghini. In the end, I got into the limo with Chuck. He took me to the airport, and then we flew to Sydney on a date at a huge oceanarium. It was very interesting and exciting, but this whole situation was bothering me. Chuck was speaking in pathos about the types of fish and the fact that he was fond of diving and saw many fish in the real ocean, but I almost did not listen to him. I felt uneasy on a date with him. However, after that, Colin calmed down. At least I thought so. But it turns out he wasn't going down without a fight. The guy placed a large sum of money on my desk with a note instructing me to spend it on my necessities and then return to him for a date at Seattle's most expensive restaurant. After witnessing, this guy became enraged. He approached Colin and smacked him in the face so hard that he fell to the ground and slammed his head hard against the floor. Colin did not rise from the floor, but lay still with his eyes closed. He appeared to be unconscious. Some of the guys immediately dialed 911. He was rushed to the hospital, and everyone was concerned. Even Chuck was really sad. Probably he didn't think that the situation would have come to such outcomes. And after all the lessons, he did not wait for me as he usually did, but left somewhere, perhaps to the hospital, to visit a former friend. I was also worried about Colin very much. In the class chat, various gossips were spread. For example, that he had lost his memory and that he was in a coma and that Chuck had broke his skull. Every time I was imagining scary pictures and threw the phone away with tears in my eyes. Only a couple days later, it became clear that Colin had been lying unconscious for a whole day, and when he came to his senses, he couldn't remember anything for several hours. He did, however, swiftly regain his memories. Chuck had also been in his room for days, it turned out. I was relieved to hear that, but even more so, when they arrived at school together, Chuck and Colin were still arguing, and eventually cooled down. This gave me a big sense of comfort. However, these two wealthy men banded together to oppose me. Because I rejected both of them at the same time, they claim I have become an attention seeker and an arrogant girl. As a result, they stopped giving me presents and began to perform dirty tricks on me in whatever manner that they could exact revenge. Now, instead of money, I saw smelly and disgusting rubbish on my desk. Shameful photographs of me were hanging on the walls at school, and everyone was laughing at them. And my parents had expected to be demoted at work. They were upset, but at least they didn't have to endure the antics of the rich. But that's not all. On my birthday, Colin and Chuck slapped a rotten fish cake in my face in front of everyone, and they gave me another gift. When I left school, a huge amount of disgusting green mucus was poured on me right in front of my house. Everyone around me was laughing at me, and as I started crying, Colin and Chuck hurled insults at me. I was trembling with rage and fury. I wanted to hide somewhere away from everyone and maintain a low profile for the rest of my life. I've never been bullied so much in my life. My patience had finally run out. I flipped out on the rich people and then managed to persuade my parents to send me to a different school. Seeing my anger and despair, they agreed, and after that, my life became the same, quiet and harmless again. I blocked Chuck and Colin everywhere, tried not to come close to that school, and also kept away from all the elite places so as not to accidentally come across any of them at all. This was so unpleasant for me that I even had to consult a psychologist to heal my emotional traumas. What would you do if you were obsessively courted by two millionaire friends? Give your answers in the comments. Click on the thumbs up button below the video and share it with your friends.